Now, here's the deal. Okay, this is where it gets good. The GSA rate for at that time was 167 a night. Okay, so if you do the math, 167 a night times 30 nights for the one bedrooms that the airline pilots were in, or the helicopter pilots, is 5,000. It's like $5,010 a month. Okay, so we're grossing $5,010 a month on a one bedroom apartment. We don't own it. We're just leasing it. We're controlling it. The property management knows what we're doing. They're good with it, right? Because it's not Airbnb. These are federal personnel coming in.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Pros Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Johnson, and today I'm joined by Noble Crawford, who's been making some serious moves in real estate investing for about 8 years now. Noble, welcome in, man. Glad to have you.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited for you to be here. I got jazzed up in our pre-recording talk. You do some pretty cool stuff. I think our listeners are really going to take something away from learning about, heck, man, a niche I didn't even know existed for today's podcast. So let's dig in there. For those who are listening who may not know you yet, what's your main focus right now, and what markets do you operate in?
Yes, sir. So my main focus right now is in the lodging and accommodation space, but more specifically, providing lodging and accommodations and housing to different federal agencies. So it's not Section 8, because that's the number one question I get, right? But we provide the inventory to different various federal agencies.
Interesting. Okay, I got to back you up. How in the world did you end up there?
Yeah. So the long story is, I was introduced to this this industry that most of us are already familiar with, which is the short-term rental space, right? Or Airbnb, right? I was introduced to that back in 2017, but prior to that, I worked in technology, and I was selling technology into different verticals, right? One of the verticals that I sold into was the federal government, right? Military and federal government. Okay. And so that was during my W-2 days, right? And so I was, I was a commercial sales technology person, right? So long story short, my wife, she gets sick. She gets sick, and we take her to the doctor. She's been having these recurring headaches, and they were like, "You got a brain tumor, and it's sizable. We need to get it out like yesterday." Okay. So we scheduled the surgery, so on and so forth, get her in. What should have been a 6 to 8 hour surgery takes 14 hours. Okay. And so she makes it through the surgery. Second day in the ICU, she flatlines, not once, but twice. Right. Turns out she was allergic to morphine, and they had her on a morphine drip post surgery, and it was killing her organs from the inside out. Right. And so they were able to resuscitate her and everything. And she's still with us here today. But on the heels of that moment, I had a decision to make, to either go back to my W-2 and grind it out, and I was commission sales at that time, or I could stay home and take care of my wife because her recovery was extensive, right? And so I elected to stay home and take care of her. So at the end of that period, 4 to 6 weeks later, I got called back into the office for a company-wide sales meeting. And in that meeting, the CEO of the company at that time berated me in front of everybody for my dismal sales numbers for the previous month. Never mind the fact that everyone knew what I was going through with my wife and at home taking care of my wife, right? So I had made a decision in that moment that I'm not going to be subject to somebody else's time and so on and so forth. And I was going to put my head down and grind and work myself up out of that job, which I did. I landed a couple of large projects, took my commission and rolled out. And on the heels of that, started a marketing agency. And I learned this concept, monthly recurring revenue, MRR. Okay. And I
Right.
fell in love with that. I started scaling. I was like, oh, I can get used to this. Only problem was I was working more hours as an entrepreneur than I was when I W2. It kind of defeated the purpose, right? And
Right.
so my dad, ironically enough, introduced to me to this YouTube video. And it was about this guy doing short-term rentals. He was like, are you familiar with short-term rentals? I said, I don't know. So the guy put on this mastermind out in California. Me and my wife flew out there and we said, hey, we could do this back at home. We came back, put our heads down, went to work, and the rest is history. So that's how I got started.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Man, that's beautiful. Like, and that's the freedom I love real estate really provides folks, is when you find your niche in it, what you like to do in it, it lines up that emotional paycheck with that financial paycheck, and boom, you can just, sky becomes the limit. So, all right, you have past history selling to the government before. You get into short-term rentals. How long before you started working with government contracts again? What led to them becoming a primary customer?
Great question. So I'm in like year 2 of doing what we started out doing initially, Airbnb, right? So I'm in year 2. We started scaling our portfolio. We got up to a number of doors, and I had this light bulb moment, and I was like, "Why am I not doing what I was doing in my previous W2 job? This is just a different product or service, right?" And once we
Right.
flipped that switch on, it was up and to the right. And so ever since then, we've grown in that space. We've done a number of contracts. We now help other people or individuals who are interested as well. So
Okay, so let's dive deeper. What is it exactly that you're doing? How do you like? So you're doing STRs, but they're for federal agencies is who's booking them. Where's that? Like, where's that
yeah,
mix? That seems
got it.
like such
All right,
two
so let's
different
let's let's
things.
get into it. Let's get into it.
Love it.
So the federal government um, has people that move around and travel. They do trainings for different large groups of personnel. It could be something that's troop movement related. It could be a number of different reasons why different federal agencies need to move people around. And when they move people around, guess what? They need to sleep somewhere, right? And so what happens is typically when a federal agency under a government contract has a need, that need is in bulk or in volume. They need a lot of something. Well, that's no different when it comes to lodging and accommodations and things like that. And so I'll give you a quick example. And so one of our first deals here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, where we came across this company that held a defense contract. Okay. And they were, it was a DOD contract. And so they were providing training and recertification for pilots and mechanics. Okay. And so they were sending these pilots and mechanics in intervals to do training and recertification. The pilots were coming in 30-day increments, right? The mechanics were coming in 2-week intervals. So once we learned this, we said, we've got inventory there. We want to be able to utilize that inventory to support this contract opportunity, right? And so long story short, we were able to get in and provide. At the time, we had 9 doors, right? So we had some 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms. Now, here's the beautiful thing about how the government pays for lodging. They pay under what is called a GSA rate, Government Services Administration rate. Okay. Now, that rate is a nightly rate. Okay. And that
Okay.
rate can fluctuate from market to market and region to region. But because these pilots were coming in 30-day intervals for their training and recertification, we said, hey, we've got some 1-bedrooms. We're going to put them up in 1-bedrooms. Okay. And so we said, but the mechanics, they're coming in 2-week intervals. So we're going to put them in 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units. Now, here's the deal. Okay. This is where it gets good. The GSA rate for at that time was $167 a night. Okay. So if you do the math, $167 a night times 30 nights for the 1-bedrooms that the airline pilots were in, or the helicopter pilots, is $5,000. It's like $5,010 a month. Okay. So we're grossing $5,010 a month on a 1-bedroom apartment. We don't own it. We're just leasing it. We're controlling it. The property management knows what we're doing. They're good with it, right? Because it's not Airbnb. These are federal
Right.
personnel coming in, right? And so,
Interesting.
yeah, so we're grossing $5K a month, but then our rent is only like $1,485, couple of $100 in expenses. So the profit margins are nice, right? So we had
Right.
5 of those. So those 5 are grossing $25K a month. Now here's the kicker. Because there was mechanics coming in 2-week intervals and we put them in 2-bedroom, 2-bath units with a shared living, shared kitchen, we were able to charge that $167 a night rate, not once, but twice. So our 2-bedrooms were grossing $10,020 a month. We had 4 of those. Okay. So collectively, those 9 doors gross $65K a month, and there's a 5-year contract. Okay. That's the example.
Wow.
That was our first
Wow,
deal.
man. And it's and the loophole, because you're working with the government, it's not technically an Airbnb. So you literally rented a unit. And then, holy cow, man, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, it's different. It's niche.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
It is. Again, it's another thing I love about real estate. You can find your way into it, and typically what benefits you is your past. Things I did before real estate helped me make way more money in real estate than I ever thought they would, just from people skills in general, from then the people you know, and it just like it compounds on itself. Okay. So you take 9 units, you turn it into 65K a month for a 5-year contract, which is incredible. Then what? Now, how'd you grow on top of that?
Yeah, so once we got that first one, we were like, "Oh, we're loving this. We're about to do this again," right? And so we found another contract. It was up in North Dallas with another defense contractor, and that one wasn't as substantial with this one, but the same sort of thing, right? So we were provided. That was a little different, where they had folks coming in at various intervals to train and stuff, but we were still putting them up and hosting them, right? And so after we did the first couple, we're like, okay, let's double down and let's go after some larger stuff. And around that same time, ironically enough, COVID was starting. Okay. Now, prior to COVID starting, we were running a short-term rental business, so we were scaling. And so we had already started to do what people in the space call direct bookings, where we were booking direct B2B type opportunities. We had stopped relying solely on Airbnb because we were having issues with the platform. And so when COVID hit, one of the other verticals that we were doing at the time was higher education. We weren't doing student housing, though. We were doing staff and faculty housing. Okay. So in instances where you have a professor or something like that coming in for an academic semester or an academic school year, we were housing them. So we'd already engaged in some direct booking across different verticals. Well, when COVID hits, ironically enough, if you remember what happened, they started at some point to shut down the colleges and universities. Okay. And then when they did that, they shut down the dorms. Okay. So like my son was staying in the dorm, he had to come home. Right. And so here's what happened. During that time when they shut down the dorms, they also shut down the airports. They stopped air travel for a while, right? International air travel. And so there were international students stuck at colleges and universities with no place to stay, and they couldn't get home. Right. So we started initially hosting them, and it just turned out, as it turned out, we got a handful, and most of them were like Asian females. They had friends. We were converting whole units into renting by the bed, and we ran that up, right? And so, so now we're doing 2 types of direct bookings: the higher education space and the government contract space, and a couple of others. And so, So what it wasn't until we kind of get pushed through most of COVID before we really started to focus on growing the government contract stuff, right? Because we were
Right.
making revenue in other different areas. And around that same time, I started having folks reach out to me, hey, can you show me how to do this? We want to learn, so on and so forth. So I started taking on a couple of mentees and things like that.
Gotcha.
And then my focus became helping them get wins. My very first student won his first contract, 7.5 million in less than 6 months. Right.
Whoa.
Then I started growing from there. So now I get the joy of doing it myself. My largest contract I'm currently involved in with my partners is a 400 door Navy contract out in San Diego. That is a $44 million contract.
Wow. So how does that one work? Are y'all owning the building or you're still leasing out space and doing it that same way? So you go lease the space out and then sublet it to them basically.
Yeah, basically. So it's a little bit different when we get to that level of scale, right?
Right. That's
So
big,
it's,
man.
it's a lot of inventory, obviously. So
Right.
the conversations change at that level, right? We're less having conversations with property managers and having conversations with property owners at that level,
Gotcha.
right? Whether it's an investment group, a REIT, whatever it is, right? Because we're getting inventory at scale, right? And we're helping them push their occupancy rate up to 100% in some instances, right?
Right.
And so it's a win-win.
And like niche isn't even the word for what you do, man. Like there needs to be another word for niche. It's a niche. Like it's so right in there, but oh man, it's so fascinating. Uh, and the fact you can scale it, that's mind-boggling too. So you're literally living in this in-between space where you have the people and the money. What you need are the rooms. Where can I go put them? And if I make that connection, whoop, right out in the middle, I'm getting paid right here.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Okay, so for your students when you're teaching them, what's like that light bulb moment for them where it clicks? Okay, I know what we're doing now. What's typically that lesson that hits?
Yeah, it's usually when they understand the process of how to go out and find these opportunities and then the positioning to position yourself to be able to capture that business. Once they understand the mechanics around that and the strategy behind that, it very much becomes a rinse and repeat process, right? Once you understand federal government contracting and federal procurement is really kind of like a skill or a trade set, if you will, right? And so it's one of those trades. It's kind of like a trade. Once you've learned it, you've learned it, right? And
Gotcha.
you can just rinse and repeat over and over again. And so typically that first light bulb moment is, oh, that's how this works, right?
Right.
And then it's off to the races.
What's one of the biggest things that they need to know when it comes to so they're going out and going to looking for the contract first, right? So go find the DoD or the government contract first, then go find the places and merge them. Is that the
Good question.
typical
Good
move?
question. So I would back up just a little bit and I'll say the very first step is they need to have their entity or their company registered to do business with the federal government. Okay. That's the first
Ooh,
place you have
noted.
to be in the federal government's vendor database, right? To be able to pursue these opportunities in most cases.
What's that
So
take?
so if you have an existing entity or some people will start a newer one, right? But you need to go to SAM.gov, kind of like Uncle Sam, SAM.gov. That's where you begin the process of registering your entity to become a vendor for the federal government. Okay. Once you're registered, once you've fully completed your registration, you avail yourself to 400 plus different federal agencies that purchase products and services. Okay.
Okay.
And so that's step number one. Once you're in there and you're able to then find these opportunities and things like that, then it is like you said, it's a matter of matching the opportunity to the type of inventory that they're looking for. So the example I used initially was multifamily, right? However, we also play in the single family space and in the hotel space. Okay. So it gets
Interesting.
even a little bit more niche, right?
Right.
So I'll give you a quick example. So I had a student win a VA contract whereby they this opportunity through the VA, they wanted to house veterans that were near the VA medical facility because they had to stay nearby because they had a procedure done. There was post-op, follow-up appointments. So they needed to
Gotcha. Yep.
stay nearby for the next 3 to 6 months, right? But the
Gotcha.
VA wanted to place either one or two veterans per bedroom, but the VA was paying per head per night. Okay. So similar to my example earlier, now
Right.
you've got 6 people in a 3 bedroom property at a nightly rate for an extended period of time on a 5-year contract, right? Because a lot of these are multi-year contracts. Okay.
Right.
So that's an example of like a single family. So yeah, another example of like the hotel space. So I'll teach my mentees and my students how to broker hotel space, right? With some of the big flag brand properties. But effectively, um, if the agency needs a massive number of hotel rooms, you can go in and you can get those rooms under contract and then sell it back to the government. Okay, that is a thing.
Really?
It's hotel brokering. Yeah.
That's why. How do you put them under contract? You're going in as your entity and
Yeah.
booking there,
So
so basically
so
getting a room block?
effectively, your company has a contract with the hotel for the inventory, and your company will have a contract with the agency um,
Right.
for said inventory for X, whatever length of time is needed, right? So it's effectively like two contracts sitting there, and you're sitting in the middle managing both of those.
Interesting, man. I'm fascinated. I got questions ripping through my mind on this of how you capitalize on it. How many students are you working with now? How many folks you got in your group?
Not that many. So I wrapped up a kind of a group coaching model that I was doing last year. I wrapped it up Q4 last year. I've got some one-on-one mentees that I'm currently working with, and so
Gotcha.
but I take a handful of those at a time or whatever. So not a significant amount. I would say less than 10 at this point.
Right on. Well, I mean, you're still running the business too, and that's where the group coaching kind of gets hard. Where the one-on-one really one, it pays your emotional paycheck a little more because you get to actually work with people. And you got that fire, man. Like, heck, I'm just getting hyped up talking to you. I couldn't imagine talking to you about like the nitty gritty of here, how we go do this. Cause I'd probably just be outside knocking on doors before I knew what I was doing. That's how hyped up I'd be. Cause again, man, you're just showing there's a lot of ways to be successful in this industry. It does not have to be cookie cutter. Thinking outside the box is highly rewarded, and you're literally doing it without even owning the property. Normally we say, make money or, earn your and make money using other people's money. You're not just using other people's money, you're using other people's property too. You got like OPP and OPM, man, you're killing it. OPP, you know me. Come on.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
100%.
the I'm just, man, I'm gonna be thinking about this after this episode for quite some time. 'Cause it's like I have never heard of that, of being able to have this over here and then even just go rent the space yourself and then rent it in the middle so that they connect.
Yeah, it's
That's
different. It's
that's
different. So
mind boggling,
I'll
man.
tell you I'll share a couple other things with you. Um, So one of the questions that I get commonly from my students is, okay, let's say you land a 50 door or 100 door deal, right? And let's say it's a multifamily deal, but it's like 50 or 100 doors or whatever. And they first ask, are these furnished deals? I'm like, yes, they're very much furnished. And they're like, how do you afford to furnish all of that inventory? And my quick answer is, we don't. We don't furnish it. We don't pay for buying all this furniture for all this inventory. We lease it, right? And that lease price, that monthly lease price, is in the markup that we've sold it back to the agency for, right?
Oh, man,
Yeah, right.
man. And heck, I didn't even know you could lease that much furniture, right? It's like all these different ideas that most people would discount themselves on. Well, I can't do that because I could never buy all that and I could never do all this and I could never do all this. And you're literally living in this space saying, okay, that's not a problem. I can just go do this. I've got this piece over here to plug into. Okay, I got some more questions on the contracts themselves. Just how do you like, okay, you're registered. Now what? Right? You're in the space. How do you find out who has one? And then how do you go about who do you are talking to win it?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So, some opportunities you can find, you get registered. Some of them you can find right there in the SAM portal, right?
Okay.
And you can search for them. You can find them in the SAM portal. And then there are other portals too that you can get access to. Now, let me back up a little bit. When you register, you're going to receive two what they call identifiers, if you will, two codes. The first one you'll receive during the registration process is called a UEI, Unique Entity Identifier. It's a 14 or 16 alphanumeric code specific to your entity. Okay. Everybody gets issued one during the registration process. During the second part of the registration process, once you finish that part, you'll receive what is called a CAGE code, CAGE. That is a Department of Defense code, a DoD code that they issue to every federal vendor. So every federal vendor will end up with a UEI and a cage code. Once you have those two, then you're ready to rock and roll, right? And then when you're inside of these portals looking for these different opportunities, you're basically looking for the ones where they need lodging, accommodations, housing, things like that, right?
Okay.
And then you can kind of pick and choose to some extent which ones you want to pursue, and which ones you don't, right? Because they vary in scale and scope and length and so on and so forth. So you can certainly, there's certainly 5-year ones out there, 3 years, 1 year projects, but there's shorter, compressed ones, right? You might find a 5-figure deal and it's only for like a weekend, right? They only
Okay.
need X amount of inventory over a weekend or over a week or two, and it's a quick 50, 60, 70 grand, right?
Right.
And so it's a matter of just determining which ones you want to pursue. And then once you discover which one you want to go after, there is always what is called a scope of work or performance work statement that lists everything, that all of their requirements for the project,
Okay.
right? It'll say sometimes, hey, you need to be in a specific radius of this address within like 10 miles. It'll say the property needs to be AAA rated, maybe, or it might say, the fire code has to be current. Like it'll have all the requirements, and then you go source the properties that meet those requirements, right? So then that's when you start doing your outbound outreach to try to find the property, whether it be single family, multifamily, or hotel, that meet the requirements. And then you start engaging with property management, ownership, stuff like that, to find out, hey, what's the best rate I can get for this block of inventory that I need for X amount of time, right? Because before
Right.
you go back to the agency and say, hey, we can do this project for X amount of dollars, you need to know what your expenses are, right?
Right.
So in order to know what your expenses are, you need to have that conversation with the ownership team or what have you. Get all your expenses itemized, determine what your markups are going to be, and then present it back to the agency, right? So that's at a high level. That's kind of the process.
It, so is it hard to win one of those government contracts? Are you competing with a lot of people? Like, what's
Yeah,
really
good
happening in
question.
that
Good
space?
question. I love this question. So, it's not easy, but it's simple. Okay, so what do I mean? So, if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. So it's
Right.
not easy necessarily, right? But it's simple from the fact that it's process based. So it's like connect the dots. If you just follow the order of things, it's very process based. Then you can go from A to Z and close out a deal, right? Which is what I teach, right? And so it's simple from that aspect. Now, what the other part of your question?
How do you actually win one? Like, how long does it take? What's that? So you're following that process. Do you lose sometimes? Is someone else doing it
Yeah,
at the same time
yeah,
as you?
yeah,
Like,
yes. Sometimes, somebody will present a better offer than what you have. The property's better. They got it at a better price point. It got more amenities. So yeah, you'll run into that. But in this space, if you at least the process that I teach anyway, if you follow it to the letter, it's less so, am I going to win, and more so, how soon am I going to win and for how much, and then how
right.
frequently. Right? Because like I said,
Gotcha.
it's a rinse
Okay.
and repeat type of model, right?
Right.
And so, but you're typically you're contacting the property management or ownership group. You're getting your rate locked in for whatever that asset type is, right? Calculating your expenses, putting your markup on it, and then presenting it to the agency, right? And they'll look at like, oh, you were asking about how competitive it is. So in the initial phase, when people are kind of doing their due diligence, trying to find the property and stuff, it can seem to someone who's green, right? It could seem fairly competitive. You might have 10 different vendors looking and, trying to find a solution. But What ultimately ends up happening more often than not, never fails, the number of actual companies that actually present a proposal to the agency sometimes is as small as one. Okay.
Wow.
And many times it's two, three, or four, and that's it. And so a lot of people will drop off in the process. They do what you kind of outlined earlier, that they get something rattles them and they don't know how to solve it. They don't know how to think creatively, and they just decide to no bid it, right? And it is what it is. And so
Right.
the amount of people actually submitting their pitching their offering, it can be small at times. Now, I will say this: the larger the deal, because there's some large ones. So, like the California, we won 400 doors. I think there was 13 total companies trying to
Okay.
get that deal, right? And so, that I mean was eight
Well,
figures,
still one
right?
out of
So,
13. That's not that
yeah,
many. It's not like that's still not that much, right? Like that's still, and the fact that folks drop out along the way, and it took you a while to get to the 400 door deal. So it shows that for people getting in up front, you can get started and actually get some traction here with the 5-figure deals you're talking about, the
oh,
ones that are
absolutely,
you can
100%.
really start getting it. And now, do you have to call the government at all, or is that really just an all electronic thing?
So typically during that phase of, hey, here's what we're looking for, hey, here's what we've got for you before you present your package to them. Typically within that phase, the only outreach you're typically making to the agency is if you have questions, right?
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
sometimes some of them will have a Q&A period. Well, we'll take questions up until this date, then we're going to cut them off, right? Because we got to make a decision. you know but outside of that, you're not really everything is in the scope of work, like literally everything that you need to know. And that scope of work can be lengthy sometimes. It can be 60 pages, right? But I'll tell you this much: half of that is legalese, right? 30 of it is legalese that is not wildly, like, it's repetitive stuff. And the meat of what you typically are looking for is going to be what property type, okay, how many, okay, location, okay, and what amenities. Those four things is what you're looking for, right? And if you can solve for those four things right there, then you've got enough to go ahead and submit something back to the agency.
And what's the submission look like? Is it a form that you fill out that's on their website, or is it a package you got to create?
Typically, it is, at least for the service offering that we provide, typically is going to be more narrative based, and it's presented in a PDF. Okay. Now, some of the agencies will say, here, fill out this spreadsheet and itemize your pricing. Some of them will say that, and you'll have to respond with that. Sometimes there is a form, a governmental form. It's called a 1449 that they'll ask for on occasion. But usually you'll fill out a 1449 once you win a contract. Um, but more often than not, it's something you start writing in like a Word document and then convert it to a PDF for submission, and you put your
Gotcha. And a
pricing in
typical
there and all that.
does the format pretty much remain the same? You're hitting the same points at the same time each PDF?
More often than not, it does. However, good question. You can find some opportunities whereby the agency will be very granular. They'll say, we need it in a 12-point font, double spacing, all of this stuff. And if you don't follow that to the letter, automatic disqualification, right? So for my people
Okay.
out there that don't like to read, you got to use an AI or you got to do something, but you can't miss the details.
Right. No,
Yeah.
that makes sense. The government works all about the details and stuff like that because it's bureaucracy, it's red tape. You just got to make sure you're hopping from hoop to hoop to hoop, and don't let the easy things knock you out. Okay, Noble, I could go on and on about this stuff, man. Like I'm genuinely just razzed about it. But thanks for presenting what you talked about today, like a whole new way to look at real estate, even for myself. So for those that are out there listening and have really enjoyed this, what's the best way for them to find out more about you and follow along what you have going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can all reach out to me on Instagram. That's usually where I'm hanging out, right? My Instagram handle is Noble, Noble dot Crawford, Crawford dot the number three. So Noble.Crawford.3. I'm not so big that I don't still respond to my own DMs. I'm
Gotcha.
in there.
I'm
And so,
fixing to
but that's
follow
the
you.
best place.
Hell yeah, man. I'm fixing to follow you. So, for everyone listening or watching in, check the show notes for Noble's Instagram link. We'll make sure you have it there so you can reach out to them. Noble, man, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate your time and your story, just pulling the hood back on something that a lot of us here have never even heard before. I really appreciate it. I think we need more folks out there doing it like you, finding those creative things. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
thanks
if
for
you've
having me,
enjoyed,
bro. I appreciate it.
absolutely, man. Thanks for being here. And if you've enjoyed listening or watching this today, please make sure to like this episode. Share it with someone else that you think would get value out of it as well. And please don't forget to subscribe. We appreciate every single one of you that follows along with us. We've got more conversations coming up with operators just like Noble out there building something real in the industry. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.